Hey, how's it going, guys? It's Shut Door or Door Shutter coming back to you with a brand new video, and today we're going to be taking a look at the mod EnderTanks. This mod adds two things. It adds an Ender Tank and an Ender Bucket. So, let's first talk about the Ender Tank. The Ender Tank has a very simple recipe. It has 4 blaze rods, 1 Ender Pearl, 2 pieces of obsidian, a bucket, and whatever color wool. This color wool is actually right here, right? This white. So if I were to put a black piece of wool or an orange piece of wool, that would actually correlate right here. So these would be black or they would be, orange or whatever color wool I put there. So keep that in mind. Let's actually turn around and really quickly talk about the Ender Buckets crafting recipe, and we'll get into what this does after we talk about the rest of the Ender Tank stuff here. For the Ender Bucket, you need 4 blaze powder, 3 iron ingots, 1 ender pearl, and 1 color wool. Just like the same thing with the ender tank. Whatever color you put in here will correlate onto the item, which is actually really cool. So let's get into the ender tank, right? So if I were to take this orange dye and I shift right click on this, you can see that this changes one band. So unlike putting a color of wool in here that is not white, I can actually individually dye each one of these a different color. So for example, if I grab the yellow out of here, you can see that that changes. And you just have to shift right click with whatever color dyes. So red, white to change it back to the normal color, black, whatever color, right? So that's pretty cool. And you can see actually on the top left that this has 2 buckets of lava and this has nothing. So what this means is we can actually create different frequencies. Using these colors, if I wanted to, I could add water into this one, and then I could have a water and a lava one. Or, if I have tinkers, I could have like molten tin in this one, and, molten bronze in this one. So you could do tons and tons of cool things with these. And we'll get more into inputting and outputting in these in a second. Over here, these are upgrades. We're going to skip the piston for now. You can see that these two are actually kind of the more important ones. The Eye of Ender increases the storage by 16 per Eye of Ender. You can actually put 14 in here because you could increase the capacity to 256. So Eye of Ender, of course, is a little bit more expensive. You need blaze rods, which then convert down to blaze powder and then make the Eye of Ender. Though, if you really didn't have the blaze powder, you could definitely use ender pearls, but you do require 28 of these instead of the 14. And these only increase it by 8, of course. So, if I take this, I can pop this off here. You can see if I shift right click on here, you can see that that increased to 48. And it actually says it down here right above my health bar and all of that as well. So now if I take this, I can shift right click on here and you can see it is upgraded to 56, which is, 8. And that is awesome. So now we have 56,000 millibuckets, 56 buckets of storage in this ender tank. By default 32, we have 56. And this only will carry over to that color. So for example, if I grab an orange dye again, and I change this, now it is only 32, right? So it's only specific to that ender tank. And you won't need to upgrade every single one on the same frequency. So once this one's upgraded, the one next to it will be upgraded to that is all white, right? So that is pretty nifty. Okay, and then we have the diamonds and the emeralds. So the diamond is actually kind of interesting because it allows for you to have player specific things, right? So on the top left, you can see where it says public use. That means if I was on a server, everybody that uses white would only get one fluid, right? So if somebody put lava in that would only have lava until it's empty or whatever. So you can see that I do have lava in here. And if I shift right click with this diamond, it'll actually change to shut door instead of public use. And there's no lava in it anymore. What this means is I could actually create my own personal private frequencies. And this means that I have power to put whatever I want in here and nobody else can touch this. So if I were to say, hey, I have, molten tin in this, and I put a diamond on here, the molten tin would be only on that frequency on a public network. So that is awesome, right? And then we come over to the emerald. The emerald is actually a little bit more interesting because it's a team network. So if you had, 4 or 5 people inside of a team, you could actually do that. You could use this tank for, teams sharing that kind of liquid. So if you had like a whole bunch of lava and you were the one that's kind of the lava producer of the team, you could have an ender tank that everybody could use with an emerald. But of course, there's a problem. I'm not on a team. And actually, how to solve this, type in this command. And this last one is actually just any name. So I could say, Shuts team, as long as it's in quotations. This number here is an ID. So if I wanted it to be 12, I could have the team ID of 12. There is probably something you can do with this, but we don't really need to worry about too much in depth on this command. So I'm going to create this team, and you can see that if I shift right click with an emerald, it changes the corners, so you know that an emerald's been applied. Same thing with this, but this is owned by Shut's team. Let's quickly get into fluid transfer. So I have just a few items here, and basically what we're going to do is we're going to place the creative tank, we're going to place this star tank, and we can actually place the ender tank in a different direction. So you can see this brown band here. This is basically the input side. And over here is the output side. So if we actually were to put the lava in here, put a lever down here, you can see that nothing is going to happen. Unless we take this back out, we then put that in here and turn it back on. So earlier you saw that I did take a bucket out of here. The thing is, this has fluid in it. So it actually pulled the fluid from here, pushed it into here. But now we are currently putting lava into this tank from this tank. So if I were to quickly break this, you can see that this is now just filling its internal buffer. So this is the input side, this is the output side. Of course, you can rotate this whatever direction you really want to. I don't think there is really a wrench or anything for rotation of this, but if you were to break it and pick it up, you could place it, just like these, where you'd have the input on the top and the output on the bottom. So that is pretty cool. We'll turn this off. You can see that we have 7 buckets in here. So now we can talk about the piston. The piston actually increases fluid transfer. So you can see that's a 250 millibucket pump on the top left under the actual, containing fluid and the storage amount. So if I come over here, you can actually get 4 pistons and put them on here, but we're only going to do 1. But this allows for me to actually have 1 bucket per transfer, right? So I think it's 1 per second. And this basically would allow for us to, pump in a bucket every second. So that is pretty cool. But of course, it does require redstone signal. And if I do take out this creative tank here, you can see that we do, push fluids just to show that that works. Alrighty, so what is the ender bucket? Well, the ender bucket is actually a really cool thing because it works just like an ender tank, where it keeps the frequencies, and whatever's in this ender tank actually is within this ender bucket. So if I shift right click, I just place the fluid. You can see that it actually went down. So if I right click to pick this up, you can see it's back up. Shift right click to place, right click to pick it up. And if you actually shift and then scroll, you can see that there is like the inversion mode where this is place and now this is pickup. So it's pretty cool. If you're more used to, placing buckets like this and then shift right click to place it, you can go back to normal. But if you want, the inversion of that, that's pretty cool. But there's like place only, and of course pickup only, and all of that fancy jazz. But if I come over here and I shift right click on this, it'll actually become this frequency. You can see that it's 114, just like this, which is 114. And of course it has the same modes and everything. But the cool thing is I can come over here and I can shift right click on this private one, and this becomes a private bucket. So it basically becomes this frequency and its upgrade. Come over here, shift right click, it then becomes the Shut's team upgrade, right? So that is pretty cool that you can basically make this to go any frequency you want. That is pretty awesome, and that is basically the entire mod. I just hope you guys have enjoyed this mod showcase. Thank you guys so much for stopping by, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye!